But I'll get another data set. So there's a data set called, I think it's called, you get good at guessing. There we go, right, okay. So that's, before we had a list of numbers, if you're doing, I mean, I do mainly epidemiology. In epidemiology, we have more like Excel spreadsheets of data in R, okay? And that's a sort of a thing called a data frame in R. So what I'll do is I'll put this example data set into something with an easier name sort of thing. So I'll call it OR, okay? So that should do it now. So now, because I've put that into sort of my own little shoebox to work on it, I'll put up here, OR is 35 observations of 3 variables. So we can kind of click on that here, and this thing opens up. And so this actually looks a bit like a spreadsheet now. So this is sort of letting us, because this is a sort of a sheet of data, we can't just see the numbers like we could here. So actually it's showing us the bits. So I can click on that thing there, and it tells us all about different bits in it in a rather confusing and Irish way. But the easiest way is just to click on it, and we get this sort of thing here, and we can see that it's some data on some trees, and it shows the age and circumference of the trees. And if I sort of scroll down, I can see there's 35 sort of measurements. So I think they've taken 5 trees and measured each tree 7 times. Okay. So that's a thing called a data frame, which is, I guess, quite a common sort of way of storing stuff in R. If you're doing kind of GWAS and stuff in R, you'll sort of use data frames or similar things to store sort of big sort of tables of data. When you start using big lots of data in R, there are some other sort of verbs that will sort of be useful to kind of to apply now. Let's just try Googling R cheat sheet. Yeah, this is the one I like. It's so but what someone's done here is they've I think Helen's got a website for the stat stuff in Roslin, so I'll sort of try and put this up on there. This is a list of sort of some of the more common sort of R functions for doing stuff. I mean, it is fairly comprehensive, but I mean, if you look down there under plotting, you've got, you know, the histogram one there. So doing a histogram, it tells you how to do bar plots and pie charts and things and stuff. So it's not a bad way of finding stuff out. I mean, personally, I kind of prefer sort of Google. What I want to do here with this data frame is I want to just get a sense of the thing. So there's a thing in R, another verb in R called head, and that just gives you the top bit of a data frame. Being R, there's a corresponding one called tail, which does the bottom there. Yeah, let's move this so we can see a bit better. So sometimes if you load it in a big sort of Excel spreadsheet sort of sized amount of sort of data, then just looking at the top bit and the bottom bit is kind of useful to get a sense of it. Okay. Now, when before we could sort of do things like look at the averages of a sort of set of numbers. So we did that sort of thing where we went mean of the rivers. Remember, because rivers was a sort of list of numbers, we could then sort of do mean of rivers and find the mean river length. If we think of it with this orange data, the mean of that doesn't make any sense because it's loads a bunch of different columns, yeah? Okay. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to look at individual columns. So you'll use this fairly soon, so I'll show you this now. The way you do that in R is to take the sort of the data frame object, which is this whole thing of all the orange tree data, and then you can use the $sign and then just pick out individual columns. So if we do that, we get the tree column. If we do that, we get the age column. And if we do this, and to save typing, I can press the tab key here and it will finish that off for me. So I sort of typed in circ and then pressed tab and it finished it off because it knows about the columns. So that way I've managed to sort of pull out the 3 sort of columns in this data set. This is about growing trees, so it might be quite nice to sort of draw a picture of these. So from my R cheat sheet, I know that plot will do me a scatter plot. And so I'm going to have the age on the x-axis. So I can do age there. and then I'll have the circumference on the y-axis, and if I press return, yeah. So what that's done there is to plot a scatter plot of the ages of each trees against the circumference of each tree. So effectively, they're sort of, you can see there, there's these different sort of trees kind of growing. One of the good and bad things about R is there's always about 3 or 4 different ways to do things. And there's a better way to do pictures in R, which introduces another thing which you'll come across if you use R. Okay, when you kind of download, when you get the free copy of R, version of R, it comes with sort of all sorts of core statistics, and it does histograms, and it does these sorts of plots, and it does means and all that sort of stuff. But all the really clever stuff like GWAS and things like that, and maps and the like, is all add-in stuff called packages. Okay, so to do a more beautiful plot, what we need to do is add in a package. And here's a list of packages which are sort of built in. If not, you can just download them, and they're all free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this package here called qplot2. Okay, and generally, if you Google and say how do I draw a map in R, you know what it'll do is it'll say on the website will say first you need to download these packages and install these packages, then you do this. So that's the sort of the R way. You sort of, you know, the moment you want to do something kind of complicated, you go onto Google and you'll find that someone else has done that. I mean, my PhD, I wanted to work out distances between all the UK farms, and there's like thousands and thousands of farms, but there's a whole load of packages which will very quickly work out distances between things far faster than I could write the kind of code to do it. So sort of, you know, we've loaded this ggplot thing in here, and then we can do a thing called qplot. And what we do in qplot is we go qplot age, what was it, circumference, and data equals R. Right, and that's a slightly prettier plot. Okay, so it's labelled stuff and things, and it's put a slightly nicer background, and it's done sort of dots there. Yeah? But then what we can do next is we can also say make the colour the tree. That's it. We'll do that. So now what it's done is it's done the plot, but it's coloured the dots according to the tree. Because remember that data, there was if you look in the data, there's the recordings for tree 1, there's recordings for tree 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've got the sort of all the different sort of each tree's got its own kind of colour, and it's created quite a nice sort of legend or key at the side there. And if we want to join those up by lines, we can do this. And again, this is stuff I've just learnt by reading help files and trying examples. This will probably fail the first time round, so no, it's worked, well done. And so this qplot function instruction thing plots these things here, this thing against this thing, using this data, colours it by tree, and it does dots, but then I can do this plus geom line, which just adds a line to it. So now I have sort of a line plot, and that geom line thing itself is something we can kind of customise. So we can do, yeah, we can make the lines dotty. And again, further reading of help files has told me that if I add this magic afterwards, then the background becomes a white background, which some journals prefer. So what we've done there is we've taken a data frame called OR, this orange data frame. We've plotted circumference against age, coloured it by tree, added a dotty line, and made the background kind of white. Okay, so that one line does all that sort of business.